page 132. In the Do Ke Kazang, it is written that when the last of the great Buddhas shall come, the universe itself will not be large enough to serve as a shrine for his relics. The Borobudur then intimates the universal diffusion of Buddhist wisdom. The sacred relics of the Buddha, exoterically considered, are the few bits of bone and ash remaining after the sacred flame had consumed the avatar. Of such classification is the supposed sacred tooth of Kande, well nigh large enough for a mastodon. Esoterically, the relics are practically identical with the jewels of the Buddha, namely the words of the master, the order which he founded, and the example of his life. If preserved with proper veneration within the heart and applied with discrimination in industry, these relics incline the devout into the way of truth. According to the sacred writings, with the passing of the enlightened one, the whole world wept, for by the transcendency of his wisdom, Buddha was one with the sole urge of all creatures. He was, in truth, the substance of the universal desire, the embodiment of the ageless quest for peace and wisdom. A Night with the Borobudur, writes James F. Sheltema, is a night of purification when Amitabha offers the lotus of the good law and the gift is accepted. When the wonderful edifice rising to the star-spangled sky unfolds terrace after terrace and gallery after gallery between the domed and pinnacle walls, and his flower of ecstatic meditation spreads its petals, opens its heart of beauty to the fructifying touch of heaven, when tranquil love descends in waves of contentment, unspeakable satisfaction. The Dagobah loses its sharp, bold outline and melts into boundless space, a vision of fading existence and consummation of wisdom. A mysterious voice proceeding from the shrine urges to search out the secret it hides. The summons cannot be resisted, and going up, thrusting to the murky night, mounting the steps to the first gate, as in a somnambulistic trance, the seeker of enlightenment discerns the path guided by his quickened perception when the voice dies of its own sweetness, the fragrant stillness appeasing the mind and extending promise of pity for passion and fleshly desire, the garment of sin left behind. Surely it was the supreme wisdom forgiving all things because it understands, which inspired a human intellect to devise, directed human hands to achieve in the delineation of mercy such powerful architectural unity sustained by such sublimely beauteous ornaments. All right. Pondering upon this supreme wisdom and seeking to analyze the nature of that sense of elevation which is bestowed by the building, the occultist goes out in the afterglow to lose himself for a little while in the majesty of the ancient ruin. As he stands gazing up at the symphony of points and parapets, he feels himself caught up in the swirl of a mighty mood. By the light of the soul, the old lava rocks find a new splendor, and all imperfections melt away, lost in the glory of the whole. The full significance of the great architectural complex dawns upon the understanding, but eludes the dimensional limitations of the mind. The building glows throughout, vibrant and with the pulse of a vast motive. The terraces and platforms extend themselves until the whole universe is filled and nothing remains but a mountain of light, its base supported by woven thunderbolts, while the great Dagobah upon its summit lifts its slender point beyond the stars. In the several departments of this vision are the radiant forms of the illumined, all seated in the invariable posture, all gazing with the same measure of repose towards the pillar of light, hovering like the Shekinah's glory about the reliquary. Suddenly it seems that the very heavens open, and from the depths of space issues forth the flaming face of Adi Buddha. The Eternal One rises from his lotus throne, from the flower whose petals are all the worlds, and, descending like a blazing sun, gathers his radiance about him and seats himself within the upper chamber of the Dagobah. Light supernal flashed from the hallowed place, the seven worlds were blinded by the radiance so that the saints dared not gaze upon it, but bowed their shaven heads to the light which extended even beyond the bounds of space. Then from the midst of the sanctuary, from the blazing heart of the universal life, there shot forth seven flames. These were swirled about until each assumed the appearance of a sun. Their glory was but little less than that of the sovereign flame, and the seven sons of light assumed the seven sacred postures and propitiated their cause. I think it's propitiated. Nope, it's not propitiated. It's propitiated their cause. And the meditating sages knew by an inner realization what had occurred, but they dared not gaze upon the mystery, for the glory of the world was too great for even the enlightened. And the seven sons called unto the deep, bidding their shadows, chayas, come forth. And they lighted the shadows with their own light, and the faces of the shadows glowed, each with a different color. And the shadows became alive and bowed before the seven sons and meditated upon the mystery. Thus were fashioned the Dhyanas, the Buddhas of the boundless, and they faced the cause, and they knew the self because they received the light of the cause and were filled with the reality of the self. Such is the mystery that took place upon the three circular terraces of the aged house. Now, from the four circular worlds below there ascended a prayer, and it arose from the creatures of the darkness whose faces could not reflect the celestial luminance. The illusion cried out to the reality, saying, impart yourself to us that we too may be real. And the seven Dhyanas that sat in meditation upon the rings of truth heard the all, and each one became, as it were, two, for there issued out of him a mist-like semblance of himself, and it arose and descended, but the glorious part remained in contemplation of the eternal light. And the shadows, or the ghosts of the Dhyanas, were the supercelestial Bodhisattvas, and they descended to the first square terrace, and they lighted the terrace with their glory, and the substance of the terrace rejoiced and was full of light. And the super celestial Bodhisattvas became also divided, and the lesser shadows which departed out of them descended on to the next step to rejoice the substance of that world and enlighten the creatures that dwelt therein. And these were the Bodhisattvas of the next order, the celestial redeemers. And they in turn called to the deep, which was below them, the worlds as yet unenlightened by their presence. And out of these lesser worlds there arose seven holy men filled with the realization of and prepared to receive the Dharma. And the shadows of the celestial Bodhisattvas entered into the seven holy men, and these men became Buddhas. And they went forth into the lowest worlds to bring the good law to every being that dwelt in the wide presence of the world. And the terrestrial Buddhas and the Arhats sat upon the lower steps of the mystery, and creation in its every part adored the light and the seven sons of light who dwelt together in the first mystery. And the light descended upon the steps which are on the four faces of existence, and like four streams springing from an inexhaustible fountain, diffused itself throughout all time and space. The moon arose from behind the great pile of half-ruined masonry. The cool of the Java night was strangely peaceful after the fierce heat of the day. The vision was gone. Only the shadow remains, but it is a shadow which after all these ages bears certain witness to the law of life.